Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here on this lovely day. Lovely day to you, Jeff Merkiafava.
Hello.
Lovely day to you, Jacob Geller.
And to you, good sir.
And the goodest sir of all, Sir Kyle, Sir Hilliard.
We continue, my friends.
Don't we all, by talking about so many games on this here podcast, including Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Two of the people on this podcast have beat it. We're going to be talking all about it on this here episode. We're also going to be talking about the Oblivion Remaster that just shadow dropped this week, which was a fun surprise. There's a game called Sunderfolk that I'm excited to talk to Jeff about. That's tabletop. To say inspired is not giving enough credit. It is them shoving as much of a tabletop game into a video game as possible. Bionic Bay, we're talking about. The Onimusha 2 remaster that's coming out later in May, we're talking about. A game called Creepy Redneck Dino Mansion, River Towns. And then, of course, back half of the show, we have some wonderful questions that have been submitted over there on Patreon. Thank you so much, everybody who jumps over there on Patreon. And here's a fun thing for everybody who wants to review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy the MinnMax Show, you can help spread the word by telling a friend about it. Or what about this? What about if you submit a review on Apple Podcasts before April 28th? Before April 28th, submit a review on Apple Podcasts for the MinnMax Show and include some way to contact you. I'm talking Blue Sky handle, Discord name, Twitter name, Instagram, anything like that, some way to reach out to you. Leave that review. We're going to be choosing 5 winners randomly and shipping out the Blu-ray collection for PsychOdyssey.
No way.
Yeah, thanks to the good folks at Double Fine and Two Player Productions. This is, of course, the greatest documentary about game development that has ever been created, and I am very confident will ever be created. Nothing this ambitious will ever happen again, and it has an awesome Blu-ray package. There's a whole second run available now through Fangamer. It has an 80-page making of booklet, 13 hours of bonus features, including a MinnMax interview with one Tim Schafer in there. So it's the best. Get a physical version of it. We're giving away 5 copies. All you have to do to win that Blu-ray physical version of PsychOdyssey is submit a review for the MinnMax Show on Apple Podcasts and include some way to contact you. And then we're randomly choosing 5 winners on April 28th and shipping out PsychOdyssey, baby. Also, before we dive in, real quick reminder, Jacob Geller and I are going to São Paulo, Brazil, next week. And we're having a community meetup. So stay tuned to the end of the episode. We'll share details again there. Jacob, how you feeling about that trip? We're going to be on a plane very soon, man.
Yeah, I truly can't wait. I was like, I have been nervous in like the weeks leading up to this, and I'll probably get nervous like the day before. But now I'm fully just like, this is going to be amazing. Let's go. How much
research are you doing? Because like, okay, I got to learn a little Portuguese. I'm saving that for the last second, but I'm going to be fluent as you could possibly imagine. But then there's just little things that I realize like, oh, I don't know who the leader of Brazil is these days. I don't know what's going on politically in Brazil.
You're worried you're going to run into them or something? And
I won't know their name. I'll panic. Nice to
that'll
see
be
you.
like very embarrassing if you didn't know. Yeah.
The answer is very little, especially because, look, on a previous episode, we were talking about who's the best MinnMax person to travel with, and everyone agreed, when you travel with Ben, you're in good hands. And so I thought, great, I don't need to do anything.
All right, I will have Google Translate on my phone if that's what that means. But so I'll be out next week. Jacob will be out next week. But the plan is we're going to have a guest host pop in for the podcast. So the podcast will continue. All of our shows will continue. So look alive, everybody.
We continue,
Kyle, just like Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is from a developer called Sandfall Interactive. If you remember, we've talked about this French RPG heavily inspired by JRPGs over and over again on the podcast, and God, I was a damn fool. I embarrassed myself. Every time we talked about it, I'm like, I don't know. I've been burned before. These games inspired by JRPGs. I don't know if this new team can pull it off. The game is out, and Kyle and Jacob have finished it. Jeff and I have started it, and by God, they have just blown some damn minds. They did more than pull it off. They are just storming out of the gate with their first game here.
Yeah, it's impressive.
It's one of the best RPGs I've ever played.
Yeah.
Just like full stop.
Now, if I may, Jacob, you are kind of newish to the turn-based RPG stuff. Like you just played Chrono Trigger, Metaphor. It felt like you were still saying, I'm kind of easing into these waters and discovering my love for this genre.
That's true, but like I'm including non-turn-based RPGs in that as well.
Right.
And I think that like we can talk about, there are lots of parts that I appreciate, but like the combat system that they have crafted here feels specific to me, like kind of the most satisfying possible version of what a modern turn-based system could look like.
Yeah, more than Metaphor.
Yeah, I mean, because Metaphor is like
without a doubt,
great,
just to be really big, like there's this like wipes the floor with Metaphor like handily.
I think
mechanics,
Metaphor has some very clever kind of theory crafting of how your characters could work together, how you could build a specific guy. But like this has, almost as interesting just skill interactions and things you can do with the characters. And layered on top is, let's get the example out of the way, like a FromSoft level of animation that you are constantly forced to interact with because the game is about dodging and parrying attacks as well as doing your own attacks in a turn-based fashion.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of specifics I want to dive into here. We'll save it still because we're doing the deepest dive on this. We'll share more details on that after this discussion. But I mean, Jeff, how far are you in Expedition 33 here?
Like 35 hours.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Jeff, I beat the game, and I think you might have put in more hours in it.
Yeah, I'm not even close. I'm maybe guessing like a third of the way through or something.
What are you doing?
Okay,
I also want to hear. Okay, I have problems. And like once the world map opened, I was like, are they gonna take me to these other places, or should I just be running around and going to all of them right now? And that's what I ended up doing for a very long time. It's an incredible game. Everything about it, like I was not expecting something this good.
Yeah.
I looked up Sandfall afterwards to be like, who are these people? Like they have no right to make something this good.
Not fair.
And a 30-person team.
That's the part that I still can't wrap my brain around, is how that team pulled it off. And it's some former Ubisoft talent, a bit of they have plenty of game industry experience just forming together here for the first time for this project.
Yeah. But just in terms of firing on all cylinders, story, the combat.
Oh my God.
Characters, just like I have been playing this game too late at night. I'll go to bed at like 3:00 and then I'll lay there till like 5:00 just thinking about how good this game is and how interesting it is and like story twists and all of these things. It's just like, where do you even start? You guys are going to have so much fun on the deepest dive talking about this one because
Jeff, it was literally keeping me awake. Like multiple nights, I would just like think about it after I finished playing.
That's so delightfully dopey. I mean, it was, so Jacob was playing it early, and I think it was sent a message just being like, boy, it's a shame we're not doing Clair Obscur for the deepest dive. It really seems tailor-made for it. It's like, we can pivot, we can do that, we can make it happen. So thank you for the guidance, and I'm glad you're not completely out on a limb when it comes to its quality. Like when all those reviews dropped, and I guess more importantly, when I started it myself, like the first hour and a half, it was like, the hook was just fully in my mouth. I want to touch on that briefly
as like a little side tangent here. Is like this genre is bad with intros, right? Like JRPG inspired games, JRPGs, RPGs, like they have slow rolls generally. Obviously there are exceptions, but like to me it feels like a genre that it's like you got to spend some time with it before you understand it. But I was like quickly, like really right away, I was like totally enamored with what was happening. And there's like an early twist that's like really effective. And just the idea of like, there's something in the distance and we're going to go see what's over there. And then you get there and it's immediately like, holy hell. There's no way I'm not seeing this to the credits. Like really right at the beginning.
I don't think I expected that feeling of, I don't know if you guys thought of it too, but just the hook of a movie like Annihilation, of just like, we're going on an expedition to a weird place. We don't know exactly what can happen, and it's going to be a bit surreal.
People have been going there for decades, and none of them have come back.
Even that, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the idea of like, we've been sending people there for years and years. No one's ever come back, but we're still going on this expedition, and you will find out why and what's happening on this continent, the mainland. Yeah.
It is one of the best premises for a game that I've ever played, and not just the premise, but like but they have like they knocked it out of the park in terms of the storytelling and the pacing that goes with it. Yeah. Like the first half hour you spend in Lumiere, like the city that all the expeditions leave from, and that time is so expertly spent. You're just kind of walking around talking to people, but it does such a good job of like grounding you in the perspective of the characters. Yes. And that has made me so invested for everything that comes after that of like seeing and feeling it from their perspective from that point on. Like it is just again, like who are these Sandfall people? How are they so good at nailing that right out? Like this game has made me think of so many other RPGs that I've played and just been like, this is a bloated mess. Like, you know, the story's not interesting. The skill trees aren't interesting. Like this is a masterclass on so many of those things.
When they're dealing with themes that they are out of the gate of like, hey, at least as I can tell so far, this is a game about love and death. Like they're just hitting you over the head with it, and they can get out of the gate so strongly on that front for just making you think about these concepts that are invading the world. Because the premise, if you don't remember, we probably dunked on it or talked about it a fair bit with our reaction streams. Dunked on's not the right term, but just kind of been fascinated by it, where the premise is, all right, there's a paintress, there's this big figure in the distance, and she paints a number every year, and everybody who is above that age dies. Is that the cleanest way to set this up?
And the number goes down by 1 every year.
Correct.
So it's, 35, 34, 33.
Right. And every year they've sent expeditions to try and figure out like, okay, if it's your year, what are you gonna do? Sit around in this town and wait to die? Like, no, we should at least try and kill the paintress. Let's try and take a boat over there.
At least talk to her.
Yeah, but I'm sure the game gets into it, but it's such a funny idea of like, wait, so a certain point where they're sending like 99-year-olds on this mission to like go try and take her out.
I mean, these are the conversations I want to say for the deepest dive, because there's like so much just in that premise that is interesting, and they do a great job of kind of like, you hear this premise and you're like, okay, that is fascinating. And then immediately you talk to like, even just in this intro section, you talk to like 6 different people who all have really different like takes on what they should be doing that you didn't consider until you talk to them, of just like, what does it mean to have children right now? Right, or like, should you maybe go on the expedition before it's the year that you're going to die? Or, like all of these things where like, the premise is interesting, and then they make it more interesting by just like inserting so much kind of thought and character nuance into how everyone else in the world is interacting with this huge thing.
And it's still, especially in the beginning, I'm curious if this keeps up throughout the entire game, like it's almost unfair how much they use music. I would love to hear like a video game composer's take on this game, because there's, the argument that some composers make of like, well, the goal of a good soundtrack is to remain hidden, to elevate the moods, but not have you notice it. And this is just like bam, 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 bam. And it is so effective. Like every scene in the opening just feels like it's a music video, and it works so damn well.
I mean, in my notes I was taking, I was writing like, I even wrote like the mix sometimes feels off for dialogue. Yes. Right? Like it almost seems like the music is like accidentally overpowering the dialogue, but like I think it's to its benefit ultimately. Like I would rather hear that score at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's probably a good sign that like, they uploaded the entire game soundtrack to their YouTube channel a while ago. It's like such a smart move.
I've been listening to it. I've just been like playing it while I'm doing stuff.
It turns out it's effective as hell. And then the combat, like, I think one of the things that's interesting about this game is it's clearly inspired by JRPGs, but at the same time, like it's confident and bold enough to securely have its own identity, which I feel like is something that's kind of missing sometimes with these kind of homages to the JRPGs of yesteryear. But we should dive into combat.
Like there have been other games where, you do a spell, and then if you press the button at the right time, it'll be a little more powerful. And on the offensive side, that it feels pretty similar to like all those other games. But the dodging and parry system just like somehow makes this more interesting to me than most action RPGs. And they have built like every enemy and all of their animations are clearly built around this idea that if you can read their moves and if you can time it right, like you're just going to negate all damage and probably do a super powerful counterattack, which like sometimes you're just going to need that extra amount of damage that you're doing on them. And it works so well that like I never want to play another turn-based game that doesn't like marry it with this kind of reactive, defense.
It uses both probably the limitations of its budget and just like the conventions of RPG structure really well, where it's like in these kind of games, you are fighting a lot of the same enemies. Like it's just there is a lot of combat and they don't have an infinite variety. But because the game is built around dodging and countering, when you see these same enemies doing their same attacks, first you can try and dodge them, and the dodge has a more generous timing window than the parry.
Right.
And then as you fight them repeatedly and you get more confident in their attacks, then you can start parrying these like long chains of strikes that they're doing. And the counter attack that they give you if you do successfully parry everything is so powerful that like as soon as you kind of learn a combat encounter, you can trivialize it because like you can just completely nuke them with your like knowledge of all their attacks. And so I never was kind of like, oh gosh, one of these guys again. Mm-hmm. I know how to kill it and I just have to go through the motions to do it, because like once you have internalized an enemy's combat rhythms, you've won.
It also makes every boss like doable. No, like almost to a certain degree, almost whatever level you're at, right? Like I'm not saying you can like instantly beat every boss at like level 1 and you have a great time, but like it just means that like if you're struggling with a boss, it's not a matter of like, oh, I need to go walk around arbitrarily and fight people and level up. It's like you're better off just doing the boss fight over and over to learn the patterns, and it's like more satisfying, and you feel better about your success ultimately.
It's a great game if you like to be stubborn in RPGs. If you like to find an enemy that's over leveled and be like, you know what, maybe I can just stay here until I beat it. Like it really does give you that ability, but also you level up from combat pretty fast. And so I think if you didn't want to do that and you did want to just go on a couple more laps through an area and grind, I think you would gain power pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's just so unique, I think, to be paying this much attention to just the random crappers that you're encountering in an RPG like this. Just to be like, okay, I'm studying every bit of animation. I remember that this wind-up lightning attack, the timing is kind of like this compared to this. Like, it just makes you so much more active, I guess, than even like your beloved Paper Mario or Mario Luigi thing. I feel like you're so much more engaged because they are huge swings. Like for a while I was surprised, but like, God, I don't have that much health. Like if you're getting hit, you're taken out pretty quickly. But then as somebody who's not a fan of parrying and who's never been good at parrying, then when you start to realize like, okay, when those parry attacks are clicking, you do such an ungodly amount of damage that like, okay, I need to start paying attention. I just need to suck this up and just learn this. And like Jacob mentioned, like dodging is a bigger window. And so start dodging, then build your skills in understanding and your memorization of the enemy animations to the point that you can parry, and then you just feel God tier. And then when there's like that expedition parry, that's when you transcend to another level of bliss. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's like the entire team does it. It's so good.
Like all of the parrying that you do, like it has no right to feel as good as it does when ultimately you're just pressing a button when you're supposed to press the button.
Right.
But it just like it feels so much more satisfying than again, like most games for me, like I don't get this kind of like if I get like a 4-hit chain where I parry each one and you get an action point back for each one that you parry, and then you do a huge counterattack at the end, like that feels so much better than any other enemy encounter in most games. It's just ridiculous.
Get this guy to Evo.
And then once it is your character's turn to attack, it is like it's almost overwhelming at the beginning, where like each character kind of has a specific game that they are playing, where it's like, okay, this character mainly does kind of elemental magic attacks. And when you do an elemental magic attack, you get an elemental boon. And if you get multiple of those boons, then you can do something else. And so you will spend each character's mechanic is deep enough that you will spend a lot of the game just figuring out how to do that effectively. And then by the end, and we will talk about this on the deepest dive, there is a lot of end game. Like there is a lot of end game optional content. Like when you are doing that hard stuff, you will suddenly find ways of joining the different characters' games together in ways that you hadn't previously thought of, where it seemed like everyone was doing something independently, but actually you realize that like you can direct them all into this like focused laser beam and suddenly do just, like a strike bigger than you thought possible on an enemy. And it's only because you understand all three characters that you have on screen and what they can do in conjunction with each other.
That's an interesting tease. So happy with the ending, happy with the end game. Like how long did it take you to beat it, Jacob?
I rolled credits at 60 hours, but I did most of that end game stuff. I did pretty much everything. I mean, again, something we talk about, there is no quest list. There are no like objective markers. There is no kind of like checklist to keep track of things. And so I actually don't know how much content I had left in the game. Like I did a lot and I went around and I think I did most of the kind of big optional endgame stuff. But like, I think this is probably going to be a game where people are like finding new weird stuff for a long time because it is truly just driven by your curiosity and what you want to explore.
Yeah, I was intrigued by like it has a world map, which is great, just miniature version of yourself running around the world. It's kind of like a Dynasty Warriors situation. Which one came out this year? Was it 9? What was it?
Origins?
It was just called Origins.
Origins, right? That's right. Yeah. But at the same time, like there's not like a region map, unless I'm missing something or we get to that point, which is interesting not to have kind of a map as you're kind of navigating just kind of the smaller dungeons or something, if you will, like a Final Fantasy X had.
That is like a little complaint for me, is I did get lost pretty often. Like I did kind of run in circles in a few occasions. It wasn't enough to like, I never like threw my hands up and was like, I don't know where the hell to go. But there was times where I was like, I actually would really like just even a little map that I could look at, or I wouldn't mind a destination marker of some kind, but it was ultimately fine because the areas aren't that big, right? You have like a larger open world, but those sort of, dungeons, or I guess you could call them, are all generally pretty compact.
Right. It's just weird to have that thing of like fast travel between the bonfire equivalents, basically, but then be like, okay, there's no map that you're looking at. It's just a matter of just remember it's going to be named this. You can jump back there if you want to. But as a dumb item of those moments of like getting out of combat, be like, wait, which direction was I going again? Which way did I come from? But it's such a small complaint.
It is a game where like there were occasions where it's like you have to pay attention to what the characters are saying because they're like, we got to head east,
right?
And it's like,
but it helps.
They do it well enough. You kind of have to learn to pay attention to that.
And it helps that on the world map, regions are really visually distinct. Yeah. And so you do remember, it's like, unlike Dynasty Warriors, which had basically like a flat map with trees and mountains on it wherever you went, this has like a really, like, oh, I remember that was in the snowy region or the underwater region. And once you're there, then you can kind of, work your way towards something more specific.
Yeah. Hey, just jump back to parrying for a second, because you two are Sekiro nuts and I'm not. But the creative director is a huge Sekiro fan. He was like a speedrunner for Sekiro and all that stuff. And so people are embracing how Sekiro this is. What does that mean other than just there's a parry?
It means, and maybe Jacob, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but to me it means like patterned parrying, where it's like parry, 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 final parry, right? It's like, does that make sense? Like it's not just one parry, it's like a distinct rhythmic pattern of parrying depending on the attack.
Yes, it very much becomes if you are paying attention, it becomes a rhythm game, and okay. I am paying attention to just like how far apart my button presses are. And I'm like a little too fast on that one, a little too slow on that one, and kind of gradually learning. But like fundamentally, I think it just does mean you parry a lot and the animations are designed for you to be able to block every hit. You know, like there are even attacks that seem like they wouldn't be able to be countered in other games. You know, like early on, there were kind of like an enemy would shoot a projectile at me, and I would think, well, surely I must dodge this. No, every single attack has a rhythm and can be parried, no matter what it looks like or how big it is.
Right. Fascinating. Well, I mean, Jeffem said it, that the developers should be locked up because they have no right to do this, and it's not fair to other developers to let Sandful Interactive onto the scene like this. It's not possible. Kyle, story overall hit you hard?
Yeah, I liked it. I like how it concludes too. Like, okay. I'm happy with the ending. Obviously, I won't say more than that, but like it's a worthwhile like journey, and also it caught me off guard of being really funny occasionally. Like just like little lines, there was maybe I'll message you later, Jacob, but there was a moment in a cutscene that was like totally off to the side that really made me laugh, involving masks. But I was like really surprised by that there was just like occasionally there's like just like a quick funny joke in there that it's like really caught me off guard, and I thought it was really funny.
Nice. You have a review up on Game Informer's site if people want to read a written review of Kyle's thoughts on Clair Obscur Expedition 33. We're going to be talking about this for, I'd argue hours and hours and hours and hours with The Deepest Dive. If you're not familiar, that is our multi-part Game Club discussion. We're splitting this game up into 3 distinct discussions, and the stopping point for the first discussion is when you get the 4th character. Stop when you get the 4th character, and we're going to be unpacking that in a big way next week on MinnMax's YouTube channel, but then also in the bonus podcast feed if you're a $5 supporter. So jump in, support us giving this game the discussion it deserves, and unlock the more convenient version of the discussion for yourself in a podcast format instead of checking out on YouTube with The Deepest Dive. So if you've been on the fence, you're welcome to jump on in. When I was playing Clair Obscur, I normally don't play with headphones, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put on my Turtle Beach 700 series while I'm jumping in to play this thing. And so part of me was wondering, like, is this music over the top amazing? Or am I just so blown away by playing with headphones that it's like sinking in a different way? And the answer is, Jacob, I'd argue it's the beautiful fusion of the incredible music of Clair Obscur.
That's right.
And only the audio you can hear through Turtle Beach 700 series headset. I've been dinking around with these headsets. Like, you know, I've got some in the past, and I'll usually just auction them off for the charity drive that we do every November. But I was like, you know what? I need a good gaming headset for my PS5 upstairs. I have a little crappy one up there that there's always like an echo when I'm trying to play Helldivers with folks. They can hear like an echo of my voice. It's just miserable. And so I got the Stealth 700 series. Turns out, Jeffem, feels damn good on my head. Tell you that much. Comfortable as the day is long, this Stealth 700 series from one Turtle Beach. And then you got to start worrying about not being a headphone guy. I'm like, what's this battery life going to be? Is this going to be like PS5 controller? Do I need to leave these plugged in all the time? Jeff, guess how long the battery life is?
I don't want to.
Let's just say even you could beat Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on merely one charge of Turtle Beach's Stealth 700 series, because it's 80-hour battery life.
Oh my God.
And it doesn't have one of those stupid packs like an Apple Vision Pro you got to put in your pocket or something. 80 hours on this sucker. It's ridiculous. So you can go to Turtle Beach's site. There's a link below if you want to check it out. And they have more than just headphones. They got keyboards, they got controllers, mice, flight and racing simulators, everything you need at Turtle Beach there. And you can get 10% off. So look up and listen up, everybody. Head to turtlebeach.com, use the code MinnMax for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code MinnMax. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support MinnMax and tell them that we're the ones who sent you. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. Follow that link below. 10% off everything you need from Turtle Beach. Thanks to those folks for making it happen. What an odd week, because we got a great new RPG with Clair Obscur, and then it seems like there's also a lot of people who are being dragged into the past with the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, the big remaster.
We're being dragged into this beloved 2007
Welcome back, everybody, to the 2006 gem, Oblivion. What an odd thing. This thing has been leaked and rumored and whispered about for so long, and then, lo and behold, the rumors were true. Microsoft just shadow dropped this thing on Tuesday. and said, hey, it's out now. You can play a full remaster of Oblivion. And I think, I'm curious where you all are at with this remaster of Oblivion, but seems to be from the video they showed, and the consensus is like, this is an incredibly ambitious remaster. And just to drop it like that, I feel like it's exceeding expectations, which is maybe what Bethesda needs at this point in their life after Starfield, is just to have a surprise. Wow, this thing's way better than we thought it was going to be.
Okay. I guess I haven't heard like better than we thought. All I've been hearing is like people talking about their nostalgia for the original game, right? Like maybe I'm listening to different people. Like, is that the reception? Is that people really adore this thing?
I think so, but I think just from their little, video diary walking through everything. Like, if this was a PlayStation game, I think they would have called it a remake. Everybody is squishy with those terms, but the fact that they said Shadow of the Colossus on PS4 was built from the ground up, rebuilt, it's a remake. It's like, well, it's kind of the same effect here, where they're taking the core engine, but then layering in the new Unreal Engine 5 engine to help fuel it, and then all new assets for the art here. Like, it's really ambitious.
I, like watching that video, I was like, oh, this does feel like a remake. And like booting it up, I did not play much. I played like the first half hour or something like that. It was, the faces were always the weird thing about Oblivion, of people walking up to you and the camera zooms in, and it's like they were always kind of strange looking. And to hear Patrick Stewart get excited to see this prisoner again after 20 years or whatever, I was like, wow, you look good, King.
Better.
You don't look bizarre anymore. Congratulations.
Yeah, it seems like most of the enthusiasm that I've seen online has been that, like, the game looks pretty because of UE5, but that people seem really excited that it is the Oblivion engine under it.
Yeah.
And I saw one Reddit post where it was like, someone shot an arrow in that first little dungeon area. They shot an arrow into a rat, and then the rat just started ragdolling all over the place, and they were like, I'm home now. And every comment was like, this is the most amazing thing. I'm so happy that they're using like the actual Oblivion engine under it all.
It needs to have that jank. And it's funny, just like in the official video, even having Todd Howard kind of winky, they couldn't say like, don't worry everybody, it's delightfully janky, but they have to be like, it's preserving the flavor of Oblivion. Like, it
still has the bad acting and the bugs.
Right.
We kept those things.
It's an odd thing for like a bullet point of marketing, but they had to hit it, and they were totally right to do it. Yeah,
I saw someone else describing like walking into a shop and the items on the table just sort of vibrating as if they were gonna like explode off into the distance at any moment, and that was like in the pro column. They're like, yeah, no, that feels right for Oblivion. Something about that world is just always on the verge of ragdolling out like crazy for no reason.
And that's amazing. They're walking through all the improvements. They're like, oh, we added new VO for all the races now. They're all different. You got that idea. And we also added sound effects to the combat. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, and feedback. Enemies now react to getting hit.
This is okay. I have no sense of what that game was like back in 2006.
Dude, back then, man, we were just like, it's hard to. I don't know if you guys felt it. Like Jacob, I don't know what your history is with this game, but like the Xbox 360 was still relatively young. The sort of introductory games like Perfect Dark had been pretty underwhelming.
Yeah.
And so to play Oblivion, which was like the long promised, like this thing is going to blow your mind game, and to exit the prison in 2006 and see the open world, it was genuinely, even beyond a Grand Theft Auto, it felt limitless in a way. That I just, something about the fantasy setting and about it just was like, it was mind blowing. It was truly mind blowing at the time.
Yeah.
Oblivion is one I have a lot of nostalgia for. Like I played it more than Skyrim ultimately. Like it is the one that's closer to my heart. But I never beat either of them, but it's the one that I remember playing in my college dorm, and like even my friends who weren't big gamers started save files and really got into it, and we would all just like walk around and like collect plants and stuff like that, because it was just like it was massive in a way that we just hadn't experienced at that point.
I didn't play it back in the day. I have no love for it, and still in that video when it kicks in with the main theme, I was like, oh, right in the gut. It still got me. But I realized it's because of editing Skyrim videos while at Game Informer, I used Oblivion's music for the Skyrim videos. Yeah. So it's like a dumb, stupid, roundabout way of being nostalgic for it. But like, yeah, it's effective. They tease it in the video, but it still is really effective when that main theme kicks in.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. As someone with zero nostalgia for it, it's like, there is not a thing pulling me towards it, and I'm curious if there's anyone who didn't play Oblivion who's like, now I'm gonna get into it, because I'm sure there are. I just don't know why.
I think there's a lot of people, and it's funny that the way they market it again, which is what I'm a geek for, is they know that fan base that played Skyrim. They know that there are 10 million people waiting for Elder Scrolls 6. And it's the idea of trying to hit that beat of like, how do they phrase it? They had something, experience the events that set the stage for Skyrim. Like, I think there are enough people who are like, oh, I can play a jankier Skyrim while I wait for Elder Scrolls 6. Sure, I guess I'll go back and play that because it looks pretty now thanks to the remaster. Well, like, I do think that audience is out there.
Avowed.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an interesting element for Elder Scrolls where like Morrowind was like maybe, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, was like the most open-ended in terms of like what you could do with your character and your abilities that you could unlock and stuff like that. And then Skyrim is the most sort of like streamlined and locked in, where you're more limited in what you can be, if that makes sense. Like, I believe in Morrowind you can get to the point where you're like flying, right? Like you can go crazy, and then Oblivion exists in the middle of those two. So there are benefits to Oblivion in terms of like being more open-ended and giving more agency to the player in a way that's really interesting.
Shut up, Jeff.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was going to bring up. Morrowind was my intro, and the reason that I still play every Bethesda game because of that first experience I had playing, like stepping out into Morrowind in the same way. And it is that specific thing of like the further we have gotten into that series, the more refined they have become in terms of like limiting the brokenness that you can achieve. Like I think it was Morrowind, if not Oblivion, but I think it was Morrowind where like you could imbue items with like magical powers and you could totally break that. And I got to the point where like I had a ring or whatever that would let me jump so high that I would die from the fall damage when I came back down from it. And it's like, that is the kind of like character crafting and stuff that like it went farther and farther away from that in the series. And so like that, like when I first started Oblivion last night, like the alchemy part was the part I was like, oh, that's right. I do remember this system and I do like it. Every item that you pick up has like 4 different attributes, but you can only see the first one when you first do it. And so you're like matching them with other ingredients, and that just becomes more and more powerful. And it's like everything like is not as broken as it was in Morrowind, but like you can really build out your character in goofy, ways that Skyrim kind of sanded off all those edges. And that's the part that, I am also nostalgic for.
So when they said they like redid the UI and the leveling, what does that mean? Did you notice a difference in the leveling?
I read about it today, but like basically what they did was in the original one, you would level up based on like whatever the skill is, doing the skill gets you more, like levels you up within that skill. And I guess in the original, I didn't remember this personally, but you would level up like your total character, where you would get the skill points that you could put into different, into the different categories. You would level that up by doing your major skills only. And so like once if you were playing as a thief, you would level up your sneaking ability just by sneaking around all the time. So it's one that levels super fast. And if you leveled that up too fast, the amount of skill points that you would get though was from the minor skills that you leveled up during that overall level. Okay. And so if you weren't doing other, so basically like every time you were going to level up, you would have to do a bunch of minor skill stuff. You would have to go craft potions or like carry, use heavy weapons or whatever in order to bank a bunch of skill points for when you leveled up, did the major level up. And that, I guess, would affect all kinds of enemy scaling and stuff, because like I said, if you were a sneaky boy, you would level up way too fast in your main ones and you weren't getting enough skill points to put in. And so they completely wiped that, and they were like, all skills that you level up now contribute to it, and then once you level up, you just get 12 points across the board to put into your different skills and stuff. So that all sounds like legitimate improvements.
So one thing I liked about the Oblivion, the original though, was like, for example, like your acrobatic skills, your jumping skills, like would level up just by you jumping, right?
And that's
I would jump everywhere.
Yeah,
and so that's like my weird memory of Oblivion. It was just like I would just hop through the fields, you know, and I would have incredible jumping, and it was awesome. So that still maintained.
Yes. So every you're still leveling up all your skills by doing them. It's just that the main boost that you get, where they say, okay, here's skill points, put them into your main stats. Like that is just universal, and you would get it by leveling up your acrobatic skill, I guess, 10 times or whatever it is. And so that seems like what most people like, that is a thing that has changed. I guess that got modded out a long time ago. And so that seems like a positive change that people like.
Yeah. Why do you think they shadow dropped it? They just had a stream, dropped it on Tuesday. If you had to put yourself in the marketing mind of Microsoft, what do you think that is?
I would think they got a ton of shit for Starfield, and they didn't want to answer questions for 6 months of like, how are you going to f this up? You better not f it up. So just put it out there, and then people can complain about it or whatever, but they don't want to do endless interviews.
It does feel like it just doesn't give people time to get mad at it before they buy it. You know, that it's like it's exciting that it's announced and available now, and before you can think, well, this thing in Oblivion wasn't very good. I wonder if they changed that. You've already bought it.
Yeah, that's true. Same like with Apex Legends.
Or you've already started the 125 gigabyte download.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I was really surprised at that file size.
Oh my God.
This seems like a great comparison. How big is the original Oblivion?
It fit on a DVD. We know that much.
Yeah. PC Gamer did it. I think they said it was like 8 gigabytes or something like ridiculous like that.
Actually, it might have been 2 discs. Do you remember, Jeff? I feel
the original Game of the Year edition required 4.6 gigabytes of storage space.
Perfect. It's that much better this time around, though, Jacob. Yeah, I think that's interesting to shadow drop it so people can't get up in arms about Bethesda and get their expectations maybe too high or too low or anywhere. Like, you know, it's like with Apex Legends, how Respawn realized like it's a free-to-play EA game. We need to get this out the door, let people realize it's good before they just build up their own storyline in their head. And it's fascinating to think of, like, Microsoft has got a decent amount coming out this year. It's weird to think of like, maybe if they were pushing it for 6 months, maybe it would have stepped on some excitement for Avowed, if there's that overlap between those audiences. Oh, yeah. But what's really fascinating is to think about, like, this game was developed by Virtuos in Singapore, the developer here, but it's also the same team that is making, or the same studio that's making Metal Gear Solid Delta, the remake of 3. And so just 2 wildly different marketing strategies for those games. And Delta seems like it's more of a remake truly from the ground up, even if it's a very loyal remake. But just like, I feel like Delta's been teased for so long now, and now here's this other big remake project, remaster project, just surprise dropped out of nowhere. It's a weird whiplash for that studio, I'm sure, for seeing these 2 different marketing strategies. Oblivion, I mean, Jeff, fun curiosity. Is it tickling nostalgia enough that you're going to stick with it, do you think?
I'm going to stream it tomorrow.
Okay.
That was the first thing I thought, like, this will be a fun one to at least stream for a couple hours, for sure, before I go back to Clair Obscur and just play that for until the end of time.
That sounds lovely.
Until I turn, well, they'd have to up the age, I guess, to... Like,
we would have all
45. Give me enough.
Lady never tells. Not Jacob.
I'm the only one left.
Congratulations. Enjoy our corpses. There's a game called Bionic Bay, ladies and gentlemen. Puzzle platformer. Too dismissive to be like, it's one of those Limbo Inside-y type things, but with a big robot-y thing. Is that the best summary for Bionic Bay, Jacob?
It's kind of one of those Limbo Inside-y things. Well, I guess it's not a bad comparison to make.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was supposed to play this. I didn't know I was legally obligated to play this.
Puzzle platformer, man. Jump on it. I started this maybe like an hour and a half into Bionic Bay. Jacob, you're playing a lot of it. Jeff, have you played it too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I finished it. It's not too long.
Okay. Nice. What'd you think?
It's neat. It's like I had seen this for a while because the developer would post little GIFs on Twitter, on Blue Sky, that were mainly like, here is big pixel art and here's like a little character running around it. And that is kind of the appeal of the game, is like, if you like the feeling of being a little guy in a mega structure, this is cool, because like there is a very little explicit story. Things do not kind of make sense. You're not going on like a character arc. You're just a little guy in a big metal world running around. But like, that metal world has really cool lighting. It has really kind of intriguing machines in the background, and running around as the little guy like feels good. And the thing that I would put over Limbo and Inside, or at least a different priority for this game, is like, the platforming feels really nice. You have a dodge roll and you have a jump, and you can roll to jump farther, and then you can dive out of the jump to go even farther, or you can like change your direction by diving in the other way. Right. And so like, the platforming is much more technically demanding and much more interesting than in like a Playdead game. Yeah,
and plenty of kind of little puzzles along the way. Like in the early puzzles are kind of based on swapping places with metallic boxes, but you feel like if you touch a box, then you can swap spots with it at any point, where it's like, oh, even just that basic swapping it. I don't think I've seen it done in another game quite like this before.
Yeah, and it's there's a lot of like physics in the game, where things are just kind of allowed to happen. And so there's a lot of like, oh, okay, I need to put this box over here, so I'm going to swap with this box and put it over here. And then you swap and you realize that the box you swapped to was holding up 2 other boxes, and so they immediately fall and crush you. And then you just die. And it's like, okay, well, resetting takes 1 second, so now I'll do that and know to pick the top box from the stack instead of the bottom.
I do really like it. For everything that Jacob said, it is like the impossible thing to try and get across is just that it feels really good to play. Like all of the jumping and diving and rolling is super fast, and you can go basically like, you can jump almost entirely across the screen in one go. And the puzzles are all good. It does the one thing that I don't love in puzzle games, where it's like, they'll teach you a puzzle and then you will do that same thing like 10 more times. And it's like, it always makes me think of like, I don't know, it was probably Jonathan Blow who said it, where it was like, just do a puzzle once and then go on, and like, each puzzle should be its own thing and should teach you something new. And that's, you will 1,000 times be like, okay, there's a block on top of this area that I need to get down, so I will stand on top of it and then switch places with it, and I will fall down and then it will fall back on top. You do that so many times. But it's also like, none of it is brain racking, and it all feels really good to be running around so fast. There are times where it's like, I will go through like an area and I don't even know how I got through it alive, because there are explosives everywhere that are very satisfying when they blow up. And it's just like, I don't know how I lived through that, but we're moving on. It will be a fascinating game to see speedrunners play.
Yeah. Well, what is this? There's like an online mode where you can like race against other people.
There's kind of like I think it's basically a time trial, but it does like the Super Meat Boy thing of showing everyone's attempts at the same time. And so it's like, 50 little guys running across the screen simultaneously. And yeah, it will be, because it's like a Playdead game. The puzzles are basically designed where you walk into a room and then die, and then you figure out how to have that not happen. And so once you understood everything that was happening in the level, you could get through extremely quickly.
Yeah. Bionic Bay is the name of this game. Psychoflow Studio and Marina Oi are the developers. The publisher is one Kepler Interactive, who also did Clair Obscur, and then they have Rematch coming up as well. Like they're on a hell of a roll over there at Kepler. But Bionic Bay, I don't think I'm as into it as you guys are. I'm gonna keep going with it because it's a nice, simple game, especially on Steam Deck. I was like, okay, just slowly make my way through kind of these puzzle environments, but I'm glad that it worked for you.
It's not. Don't have your expectations too high. Like it is comparisons to Playdead are just because you're a little guy in a big world. It is not a like cut from glass design like they do, but it is I like it's a fun little platformer in a cool world, which sometimes that's what you want.
That's what you need. And sometimes, Jeff, when you're running around, jumping, you're building up a bit of an appetite. Am I wrong or am I right?
Oh, you're right.
And you need and you need a little bite to eat. But sometimes it's like, what is it? It's getting warm out. It's getting nice. I want to be outside soaking up the sun, playing with the girls. I don't want to sit in here making stupid food, prepping for, I don't know, how long does it take to make your average dinner? 6 hours?
At least 12 hours.
12 to 14 hours. Yeah, AI overview says 12 to 14 hours. So what if you could speed that up into, I don't know, Jeffem, 2 minutes? Factor meals, everybody. That's what they're here for. Factor meals, busy days, keep it simple at home. I genuinely, every time I get a big box of Factor, I feel like I have, I don't know, break glass in case of emergency in my fridge, ready at any point. I'm like, you know what? If I'm stressed out, need a fast and easy meal for me or the family, 2 minutes, microwavable, damn good meals. Factor meals, stuff like roasted garlic chicken. Kyle, is that your stomach? I can hear whirring and growling. Chimichurri chicken breast, Baja salmon. Come on. Factor meals, everybody. It tastes as good as it sounds, ready in 2 minutes. You can get 45 weekly menu options. You can get started at factormeals.com/MinnMax50 off and use code MinnMax50, that's the number 50, off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code MinnMax50 off at factormeals.com/MinnMax50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Keep Factor around as a sponsor because I do love their quick and easy meals when you're in a rush. Jeff Marchiafava, I am so eager to talk to you about this game called Sunderfolk.
I know you have been.
I know. I was bugging you because we always do a thing of like, hey, who wants this code? Who wants access to this? And Jeffem was famously quiet every time I offered it. And eventually I got to the room, I'm like, will you just take this code? Because I want to talk to you about this weird tabletop Sunderfolk.
We don't force people to play games here at MinnMax.
except for this tabletop game that I want to talk about with Jeff. So this is Dreamhaven, which is a bunch of former Blizzard folks, a bunch of Hearthstone folks working on this. But Sunderfolk, under publisher Dreamhaven. Dreamhaven also is developing Wildgate, that game that we talked about in the past that Leo and I played with kind of the ship combat, the one that's a little bit like Sea of Thieves that we talked about before. But this is something completely different that is out now. Jeffem, let's see. Think of like Hearthstone meets Jackbox meets turn-based strategy tabletop game.
It's like digital Gloomhaven, if people know that game, but everybody's playing on their phones.
That's exactly
it. Also on a TV screen.
It's a funky mix, right? Because you're playing on the TV, but you download the Sunderfolk app and then you're controlling it on your phone and controlling like, okay, where is this character going on the screen? How am I using their moves? The moves are represented basically like cards that you kind of flick up on your phone in a very satisfying way to kind of trigger that move and stuff as you navigate around. Funky interface, but like, this is very particular to my exact life. I understand that, but like, I have my Steam Deck hooked up to my TV in the dock. Do you guys do that? Do you ever play with a docked Steam Deck?
I didn't know there was a dock.
Okay, there's a dock. It's super wonky. I always have a real hassle of a time trying to get like controllers to work, especially for multiplayer stuff. It's just a mess. And so the idea of like, oh, here's a game where I can have the Steam Deck hooked up to the TV and then I don't need to worry about controllers at all because the phone is the controller. And plus, I can play with my wife because she loves tabletop stuff but isn't really into video games. But like, hey, this is basically just digital tabletop and we're going to be leveling up our characters as we work through this kind of tactical situation. So it has hit this perfect sweet spot in my life where I'm super excited about it. But Jeff, I'm as a connoisseur of tabletop, as we can see from all the games behind you, what do you think about Sunderfolk so far?
Yeah, it's an interesting premise that I'm very happy is for you.
Okay.
It is not for me.
He hates it, man. He hates it.
What are you talking? What's not to like about this? It's fun as hell.
The game seemed fine. The reason that I like tabletop games in the first place is because it's an activity that doesn't involve staring at a screen that I can play with other people.
Right.
And here, it's two screens. Everybody's got their own screen, and then you're also playing on another screen.
Right.
And so like And so that's why I didn't ask for a code, and that's why I begrudgingly downloaded it when you wanted me to. But like in terms of that actual interface, if that's not a deal breaker for you, or if that sounds exciting to you like it does for Hanson, like the interface works really well.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised that like it is very slick, it is very easy, everything works the way that it should. It is really satisfying to have, you know, like the hex grid layout with your characters on it. And then when you play a move card, you just kind of like trace on your touch screen and you can see the path that you will go on the television screen. And it just, you know, there's no like weird lag or anything like that. And it works really well. And so that's cool.
I hear you that it's like, the beauty of tabletop is getting away from screens. But like, if you've played a lot of tabletop in your life and you're looking for something different, and like this game can do things that you can't do in tabletop, and it's a fun, easy, you know, co-op experience to jump into.
There is certainly I would not play the physical version of Gloomhaven because it's too complicated and there's too much upkeep. I do like the digital version, and so this would like fall into that area. And if you want to play a multiplayer game like this with other people, like a digital multiplayer game with other people, like this is the way to do it, because you do need, you know, like you would need your own hand of cards, and you would need to be able to see all of that, and trying to have all of that on one screen would be a pain in the butt. So like I'm sure there is an audience for this. It's just I'm not in that audience.
Yeah,
I fall outside the Venn diagram of who this appeals to.
Because it turns out it's a Venn diagram. Because it is weird to think about, like, I don't really like turn-based tactical games. Tabletop, I like it. But video games, I don't. And it's so weird that, like, with this format, I feel like I'm giving a tabletop pass to a lot of stuff. I'm also not really into super dorky fantasy stuff. But in this one, I'm like, man, if it's like tabletop based and there's some ancient turtle talking about the magical seeds of the tree have been stolen, I'm like, I am all in, magical old turtle. Tell me what I want to hear. It's just when I'm coming at this from a tabletop perspective, I don't know, I'm so much more open to some ideas that I would reject from the video game world. So I don't exactly know what the magic is that Sunderfolk is working with here. But it's fun, like, you know, you go around, you choose different missions that you have. You have like a home base that you're kind of building up and building affinity with different characters. You can talk to 3 different characters every time you go back to the home base, all that fun stuff. But then they also do little quirky, unique things that they can only do here of like, okay, if you're getting in and encountering a new type of enemy, one character or one player can name that enemy, or one player can name this thing over here that you're trying to get to on this level. So they have like different little fun interactions and stuff instead of just fight this character, level up your guy, move on. There's some smart stuff in there. So cool. Therefore, Jeff, because you can name those archers, is it not the greatest?
That's very fun. As I was playing, I was like, I'm sure they could probably do stuff where like, and you can tell me if they do, where like some people get certain information on their phones that, you know, other people don't, and that kind of like it seems like a very smart system that they got for going on. It's just.
But they should also be locked up and thrown in prison. Is that your angle here as well?
But yes, for the opposite reason of Clair Obscur.
Yes, yeah. Because this one doesn't appeal to me, so...
I'll be damned. I'm looking forward to, like, I think I'm going to slowly be making my way through this all year. It'll be like my co-op game with my wife. And it's like single player, you can technically play it that way. I don't think it'd be great. It's like I mean, if you're really into as much fun as you can have in a single player board game, then perhaps it's up your alley. But like, it's designed for if you have a group of like 2 to 4 players to jump in and go through this campaign, you know? And it's like, well, it's $50, which at first like, well, for a video game, that's pretty steep for something like this. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't know, for a tabletop game, it'd probably be more than $50.
It seems like a good setup, good test case for you. I'm sure there are other people out there who are looking at it right now and thinking this looks very cool. And I have a group for it, and that would be perfect for them.
Yeah, it's just fun to see like developers pent up after years of working at Blizzard and probably failing to get 1,000 projects off the ground. Like, what do they make when they have complete freedom? And when they come out of the Blizzard gates and they make something as weird as like, we want to make a tabletop game that you play with your phone, but then based on the main screen, like taking this big of a weird swing, I'm very into. But then again, I was all on board for PlayStation when they were leaning into the whole PlayLink angle. Remember all those weird phone games and stuff? Like I want to see more people experiment with this. So I'm very excited that a talented team like this is tackling this fusion of phones as controllers, but in a way that's not a clunky mess. But Sunderfolk.
This seems like the best version of that kind of experience. Very polished and worked very well for what I played.
Yep. So. Absolutely. Sunderfolk, everybody. You can check it out if you want that. I'm curious to see if anyone else likes it as much as I do. Another game that Kyle's been playing a lot of is one Onimusha 2, Samurai's Destiny.
That's right.
This is the year of Onimusha. We can't get out of this. We did the deepest dive. Onimusha 2 Remaster was announced, and now you have played the remaster. And you didn't play the original back in the day, Kyle?
No, I didn't. I think we talked about Deepest Dive. I never even beat the original back in the day, but I played it a lot because I played it like at a friend's house that had a memory card. And I always wanted to play 2, but I just never got around to it. Yeah. So, and now the remastered version's coming out. And I can talk about like the first part of it. I can talk about playing up to a certain point.
But also it's a game that came out.
It's a game that came out a long time ago.
Over 20 years ago. And it's very possible to have played through the entire thing. Yeah, I mean, overall, how did it compare to 1 for you?
It's cool. I quite liked it. It's like it's different, right? Like it's different in surprising ways. Like the structure is the same where you have the sort of pre-rendered backgrounds and the combat feels similar, but there's this whole other part of the game that's like interacting with NPCs and giving them gifts, and that actually changes the way the story works. And like the structure of it, and you can get like different I think the ending might be the same, but like there's different tracks to go through and see different things. And it's not like you get one gift and you're like, oh, this definitely belongs to that guy. You get like, 50 gifts, and you're just sort of like giving random people random stuff and like waiting for their reactions. I did an interview with the director of the original game recently, and he was talking about it, and like he was like, we were very intentional. We didn't want to have like an affinity meter or anything like that. We just wanted you to see their animations and just have like a human reaction was like the goal for that. Like I gave this one woman like these mushrooms I found, and she like freaked out on me and was very upset about it. And I was like, I guess she doesn't like me anymore. I don't know.
That's funny. I wonder if it was a little Animal Crossing rub off in this era, because it was in 2002, I suppose, that this came out. I booted it up. I got like really rekindled the old fond memories of the Deepest Dive and Onimusha that feels like we did a lifetime ago, where I just booted up the original Onimusha 2 on the PS2 and I was playing through the opening.
I did too, like a month or two ago. Yeah,
did you?
I was playing it. Yeah. It's
nice to have like Onimusha muscle memory at this point, especially on the PS2, where it's like, oh, somehow Onimusha 2 also doesn't use the analog sticks on PS2, which is still so weird. It's like still just relying on the D-pad in this game that came out, 2002?
Yeah, because you did not play Onimusha 1 Remastered.
I haven't touched any of the remastered stuff, no.
Okay, because it is nice. I mean, it makes a big difference and makes it much more playable, frankly, to be able to use the control stick and not have it be tank controls. I mean, I know it might be blasphemous for some people who really love that, but it does make the game, I don't know, I find it more fun to play and like a more reasonable challenge. But after sort of diving deep into 1, it's nice to have a version of 2 available. It's good. Like it plays well. It's also like it's similarly like not super long.
Okay. Jacob Geller, I hate to tell you that after the events of Onimusha 1, Nobunaga, that SOB is still alive, man.
No.
Yeah, and he runs amok, and only one person.
Seen this coming.
Only one person can stop him, and it's our new protagonist, Jubei, from the beginning. But the part that was,
I was going to ask, because the Onimusha, or the protagonist of Onimusha 1 goes kind of Super Saiyan at the end of the game in a way where you're like, oh, new mode, and then the game ends.
Right.
Is any of that present in 2?
Yes. So now you remember you can hold down circle on the big thing. You can suck all the souls into your gauntlet. That's kind of the Onimusha thing. And you can suck in like health or experience, yada, yada, yada. Now there's a purple orb that you can absorb, that if you get the certain amount, you can go full Onimusha mode. And that's the big difference here this time around.
And it's funny because in the first game, right, you're right. Like it shows you a cutscene of that. And you're like, wow, I want to play as that. That's cool. And then the other weird avenue that they get into that for Onimusha 2 is like they barely, I don't even remember them tutorializing it. I just, at a certain point, I was like, oh, I think if I hold down 2 buttons, I go Super Saiyan. From like basically the beginning of the game. It's like you could do that. It's just very funny how it's like, it's almost like they didn't realize that people would want to do that or something.
I guess that's the thing. But I was amazed that like in the intro video, there's so many other characters introducing. It's like it feels like a sitcom opening all of a sudden. Like, and this wacky character. Here's this blonde guy who thinks he's a ninja running around the rooftop, and here's a hot chick, and she's in a waterfall taking a shower. It's like, who are these people? Like,
those are the people you're giving gifts to.
Okay, gotcha. And no spoilers here. I will say I read your interview with the director, and you asked about like, what is this doing in the game? And when I read that in the interview and I revealed it through the spoiler text on GameInformer.com.
We're talking about the older game at this point, right? We're talking about the original release, right?
Well, who could possibly say? There are some things in this game that I was aggressively not expecting to be in this game. That for all the
that's
like
a great
teasing,
way to put it. Yeah,
for all the teasing people have done about, you got to play more Onimushas after you did the Deepest Dive on 1. It's like no one revealed that the sequels contain this element, which is really huge. It feels like
it's crazy. Like this one, 2 is crazier than 1. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys think 1 was crazy? It was weird.
It was weird. I mean, some of the characters were, I'd say they're crazy.
It was quirky.
That's a better way to put it.
Crazy.
Yeah, not
where this one. Where the first
lunacy.
one's quirky, this one gets off the rails in a way that's really fun.
So you liked it more than 1?
Oh, you know what? That's a tough question for me because I do have a weird nostalgia for 1, and I do like how compact that game is. Gosh, in 3 years, if it's like, I have an itch to play Onimusha, I think I'm still going to go back and play 1.
Okay.
But that's nostalgia more than anything else. I think there's a lot more to do in Onimusha 2 for sure. Yeah. There's a lot more like reasons to revisit it, frankly.
Yeah, because with the gifts, you can get like branching storylines, right?
Yes. Yeah. You can see different parts of the story with the different gifts. Yeah,
that's funky. But if you're craving more Onimusha 2, Samurai's Destiny, the remaster's coming up May 23rd. So you still got to wait a damn month for this thing. Or you can go back and check out the deepest dive we did for Onimusha 1 and play through that along with it if you'd
Jacob,
like to.
do you think, is there a world where you play this? I mean, Onimusha, I feel like your reaction was like, cool, I'm glad I played it, but I'm not like, super fan or anything.
It is. I'm worried about you saying it's a similar length is good. It's like, I don't necessarily want increased complexity. Like the like managing different characters and like gift giving kind of scares me just because it's like I liked how straightforward Onimusha was and the fact that I didn't even have to think about like ammo, that it was just like a Resident Evil game with no scarcity.
Right.
So, but I don't know. I'd certainly, like I did enjoy the first game and I would like to see what wacky stuff happens in this one.
Yeah. The gift stuff is weird. Like you could technically just not even engage with it at all and you would still get a full Onimusha experience. But yeah, hey, I plugged my interview with Motohito Eshiro on GameInformer.com.
There you go. There it is. Check it out, everybody. Another game that came out. If you enjoy puzzle games based in a mansion as you're slowly uncovering room by room, there's only one game to turn to in this era, and it's called Creepy Redneck Dino Mansion 3. Everybody, from Strange Scaffold. This is Bejeweled Puzzle Quest with a layer of Resident Evil 1 and Dino Crisis, I guess, thrown in there. Is that the pitch for a Creepy Redneck Dino Mansion 3?
Also, it's a time loop Metroidvania.
Okay, also time loop Metroidvania, very important.
It's an incredibly simple game to play and an incredibly complex game to describe the pitch of.
But the core of it is...
I got an email about it, and the thing that made me sort of go over and be like, okay, I do want to check this out. Like, please, I would like a code for this. Was survival horror Metroidvania, and then the screenshot was Bejeweled, and I was like, well, what is this? Like, I was intrigued.
Yeah, and so it is from Strange Scaffold, one of Jacob's favorite developers. They have later this month in May, they're releasing that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown tactical game, which Charles McGregor, friend of the show, is working on, which is cool. But they never stop releasing games, as evidenced by this, where they're jumping right into 3 for Creepy Redneck Dino Mansion. Correct? That's just it's a Goat Simulator style joke here of pretending there's a bunch of other games in this line.
I would say it's not a Goat Simulator style joke because I enjoy it and it makes me laugh.
Okay, I see. Jeffem, you seem like you're a Puzzle Quest nut.
I'm not. Never played it.
Ooh.
And I usually am not a huge fan of Match 3 games.
Really?
But this is more in my wheelhouse.
I don't believe you.
I like Match 3 games where it's like okay, just try and get as many of these things right now as you can from a big group, and not the more bejeweled, whatever the hell you're doing in that.
High score runs, that type of thing, or like a Bejeweled Blitz style thing. But yeah, it is nice because like as you're working through different scenarios here, it's like, okay, you're fighting a raptor.
I liked having something other than just that puzzle going on as well. And it is a really interesting and goofy but interesting premise of like, you are trying to figure out how to go through these different rooms, and then like every like, you know, dialogue choice that you have, or like they're giving you choices and those are branching off into different paths. So then like once you restart, you kind of like go back to this bar, and like you can upgrade and you can buy like different resources and things. And then you go out and you like, okay, well this time I'm going to try and go down this path instead. And you're doing, you know, the similar, like Bejeweled style match 3 stuff, but it's interesting. And then it gets like super goofy and super weird and fourth wall breaking. And, that stuff has been amusing as well.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it happens like before the first save point, basically, that it is revealed to your character that you are in an unreleased video game. Like that is kind of part of the shtick. And so then there's a lot of like there are just a lot of video game development jokes of like, you go down a hall and there's nothing there, and there's a line about like, it really seems like probably something was supposed to be here and then they ran out of budget or time, and so now it's just a weirdly empty hallway. Or like, you know, you like find the exact angle to run at a wall so you can clip through it and like get to a different place that was, so it's just like, it's more than the sum of its parts. You know, the match 3 thing, I think I haven't played a lot of these, but I would imagine it's a pretty mid match 3. Like it's not as exciting as even Bejeweled. But with this layer of like meta-ness on top of it, and then each fight kind of has a different like bit that it's doing, where like generally it's like, okay, if you match 9 red tokens together, then you can use that to perform some sort of action. But sometimes that action is like, you get into a place and it's like forced stealth tutorial, and there's a velociraptor that's not looking at you, and if you get enough red gems, you can sneak up behind it and snap its neck silently. And it's like, that's just, you know, just having that in your head, even though it's just a Bejeweled map, is really funny. And they like continue to have fun with what collecting the different gems means throughout the entire game.
Yeah, it's the best possible wrapper you could have around a match 3. And it's just so refreshing too to have a game like this, like a puzzle quest, right? Where you don't have to worry about microtransactions. I mean, it's be like the whole Bejeweled genre and match 3 genre. It's like, okay, it all feels inherently gross because I'm just waiting for like, okay, how are they going to try to nickel dime me in this free to play mobile game? But just to have like, no, it's a satisfying thing for your brain to do. And imagine just this clean, pure version of it where now we're telling some meta story about video games and Resident Evil and everything wrapped up in this. It's the best possible way to present everything there. Did you finish it, Jacob?
Yeah, there's some stuff that I didn't. There are like some branches that I didn't fully explore, but I did. And the other fun thing about it is like, as you do things, you do the Metroidvania part of it is, as you do things, you just kind of acquire skills through experience. So like, you know, at some point you might fight a computer, and then when you fight the computer, you get a skill that's like hacker. And then you remember that like much earlier in the game, there was just a branch that you couldn't take because it required hacking a keypad. And then you can go back and do that. So it's not, you know, like it's all text choices. It's not like you're getting a double jump and you can reach a higher balcony, but it will say something like, now you have a double jump. And so you can click on the option that was the balcony that was too high to reach.
Yeah, you're never walking around as a character.
It's just visual novel. Yeah, okay. Just purely text-based here for this thing. That's cool. I assume it runs okay on Steam Deck. I was just playing on my PC, but Okay. Yeah, it definitely seems like a great one. Like, it's weird playing it and being like, God, I kind of wish I had this on mobile, actually. If there was just a premium version of it, just because mobile and Match 3 is such a beautiful combo. But it's only out on Steam right now for Creepy Redneck Dino Mansion 3, of course, from Strange Scaffold. Similar vein, puzzle stuff, but with a new twist. We got river towns, everybody, coming down the river. This entire episode's been this plus this. This is Tetris meets a city builder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of. It's like, in terms of board games, it's like tile laying polyomino game. There's no like forced time where pieces are coming down, like drop down duchy or whatever.
Right. Jeff, you can't just casually drop a reference to drop down duchy like everyone understands a drop down duchy.
We'll talk about that one in the future. It's important too. But yeah, like you have a map, grid-based map that there are rivers on, and then you have like this stack of different tiles that are shaped like mostly Tetris pieces, but they're different, configurations of towns. And then like each turn you have one, and you just have to choose where you want to place it. And like they come in mostly it's like 3 different colors, and those are different like districts of the city, and you just want to build big groups of the same color together, because the biggest group of each color is what's going to score you points at the end of it. And so like I streamed it last week, and it was an interesting one because for the first, like hour, I was like, this is interesting, but it's pretty simple. And like, I wish they kind of, made it more complex. And then as I played, it became more complex, and I was like, I don't like that it's getting more complex because it becomes a little more frustrating than I was expecting. At first, there's like, dwarf romantic vibes of like, I'm just building these little towns, and it's very easy, and there's not much to it. They complicate things more with like the river placement, and then you start getting other goals. There will be like trees out there that you have to build all the way around, and like. I think the sticking point for me, and the reason that I didn't end up liking the added complexity, is that like they do the very mobile thing of, for each level you can get up to 3 stars, even though they're little river town symbols or whatever. But like those are point based, and so like the higher score that you get, you might get up to 3 stars, and that's what you want to get. And it's like that requirement as you go on is basically like, every district has to be perfect. Every orange piece has to be touching all the other orange pieces, and, blue and purple and whatever. And then you also have to get whatever the bonuses are. And then every time you build over a river, it builds a bridge, and that gives you 2 more points. And it's like, you have to do all of those things. Otherwise, you're not going to get all the stars. And then in order to unlock the next world, you have to have a certain number of stars. And that level of just like mobily, like, how do we create a sense of progression, just kind of makes it more stressful than it would be if it was just like a high score thing. Like, good, can I do it this time? It's like, man, if I don't have a place for this last orange piece, I'm f***ed, and I'm going to have to play this level again. Right. And that's not what I want from this kind of casual tile city building. But it's interesting, and it's like, ultimately I would lean more towards that side than it just continuing to be too simple. And you always had enough in the early levels. You always have enough space. You don't have to worry if like you're leaving empty spaces and things like that. And that gets more complex, and you have to think farther ahead. And that's pretty cool. It like the reason I wanted to talk about it is there were like 8 people following it on Twitch, and it has like 79 reviews on Steam. And for as good as it is, like, it just deserves more attention. And if you like dwarf romantic, or you do like tile laying, board games, then like this is a good version of that, and it's worth checking out at least.
River Towns. I think it's just on Steam right now for River Towns, but we'll see if it makes its way anywhere else. Sweet, good to see it. Hey Jacob, what are you looking at right now, man? Pop quiz.
My face on Discord.
Oh. You could also just go to Google and like search Jacob Geller and look at the images, and you could see your face. And if you did that, you'd probably need like a browser to do that, though, right?
That's true.
But you'd probably, knowing you, boot up some lame browser for squares, like, ooh, Firefox, please. Ooh.
That's my worst quality is my browser choice.
Well, how about you spice it up a little bit in the office or the computer room, Jeffum? Forget spicing up in the bedroom. We're talking about spicing up the computer room with Opera GX, everybody. Thanks to Opera GX for sponsoring this episode. The whole angle is you don't think about your browser. You probably locked in whatever browser you're using years and years ago, and it's probably some clunky, slow, RAM-intensive turd that doesn't even care about the fact that you're a gamer. Am I right, Jeffum, or
Just
am I right?
Chrome. Just say Chrome.
I'll say Chrome. I'm not scared of those hacks at Google. The idea with Opera GX is
thing you used to look up Jacob's face?
Yeah, well, you can go to Google on Opera GX. You can still support Google through Opera, don't worry. But Opera GX, the idea is it's a browser that's optimized for gamers. They have a bunch of things that they're pushing in there. Like, okay, you can set it so it'll have a RAM limit so you won't interfere with the game that you're playing if you don't want to have that bogged down in any way, because some of these things can really be a computer hog in a way you wouldn't expect. They have a bunch of different modes, like, transparency for the sidebars makes it more immersive, almost looks like you're on your desktop as you're in the browser whenever you open up a new tab. They have mods, as they put it, thousands and thousands of mods, so you can have weird fancy splash screens. You can
make it nude.
You can do whatever the hell you want to do.
For nude mod.
That's it, man. Opera GX, it's all there for you. You can have Force Dark mode built in there. There's also a built-in VPN with Opera GX. So if you are looking for a new browser, you want to shake it up, you can check it out. You can follow that link in the description. That's operagx.gg/The MinnMax Show. You can use the link in the show notes to download it for free with Opera GX. If you want to give a little facelift to your internet browsing, that's an option for you. Also, shout out to our dear friends at I'm8bit. They want everybody to know about some of the greatest soundtracks known to man from a video game. They're available in a big reissue in their wonderful online store. I'm talking about the Persona soundtracks, everybody, for Persona 3, 4, and 5. And these are the Mega Mix, which means they're kind of like the greatest hits. So if you want just the greatest tracks from Persona 3, 4, and 5, you can go to I'm8bit's wonderful online store and check that out. Or there's a link in the description if you want to go directly to these mega mixes. And you can look at everything else in I'm8bit's wonderful online store. Check out everything that's in their store, and you can use the promo code Happy Birthday Mr. Rossetti. Happy Birthday Mr. Rossetti for 10% off of everything under $100 in their online store, other than the Persona vinyls. Doesn't work there, but everywhere else you can get that. And help support I'm8bit because they support the MinnMax community in a huge way by shipping out a prize each and every week to whoever submits the greatest question on Patreon. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can submit a question. Every single week, we choose our favorite. They win a prize. This week, of course, they are winning the vinyl soundtrack to Oxenfree 2, thanks to I'm8bit. Amazing art. All right, y'all ready for these? Mm-hmm. Great, they go like this. Chris Pelly says, hey, do y'all have tips for someone that's never played anything similar to Clair Obscur Expedition 33, but you want to be somewhat in sync for the deepest dive conversations? What's a person to do?
No one has ever played anything like this game, so
because it is the face of God.
I have no tips.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I think an early tip from me is actually like do get good at countering, right? Like let yourself get killed. And don't worry, and don't like sweat it too much because it has really good checkpoints. And just get the hang of countering as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the larger genre of turn-based RPGs, I mean, it is a genre that took me a while to get into because when I was young, I just fully did not understand turn-based RPGs. Like I remember booting up a Final Fantasy at a friend's house and being like, "What is this? I walk 5 feet and then a bunch of menus pop up, like, and I can't press a button to just punch somebody." Like that did take me a while to sort of understand the value of that. I mean, the thing about Clair Obscur, though, is I think it, even if you're not a fan of the genre, it's so compelling out of the gate that I think it might pull you in, right? Yeah. Like, it might just pull you in. And the combat is very snappy, right? Like, moving through those menus and selecting things and watching it all play out is quick and feels good. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think they're asking, like, will I like this? It's more just like, what are the things that other JRPG players already know that I won't know, which I would say just kind of like there's a whole skill system where you're finding luminas, and then they can turn into pictos, which is a little the terminology is a little rough.
I'm so confused,
I think it won't matter by the first deepest dive, and then we can talk about them more in depth because it is a confusing system. But like, I think like even just one turn ahead. You know, a lot of characters have moves that will set up a move that will come around the next time that they get to play. So instead of always doing the most powerful move available to you at any given time, just think, if I do this now, this will allow me to do this next turn. And like, even just doing one move ahead, I think will get you pretty far in terms of like battle strategy.
One thing that they do tell you to not miss is you should always just attack enemies like before you get into the battle. You can just like press the button.
Yeah, R1.
You always get first strike. And the thing that they don't tell you, at least I didn't realize it, is you have items that you can use. And most of the time in like JRPGs, I hoard items all the time because you never know, like you want to make sure you have it when you really need it. Here, like when you rest at the different flags that you reach, those all refill, so there's no reason not to use them. And it took me a couple hours before I realized that. And it's like,
they are essentially Estus flasks,
yes,
including one that is just a heal the entire party outside of combat. And you, just use it whenever you're a little down on health, because the checkpoints are pretty frequent and you'll get them back.
Yep. Yeah, I was thinking I had to save those, but that was a good tip, Jeff, because I did. It took me a while to just heal. There'll be a flag soon enough. Don't worry.
Yep. Also, forgot to mention, it's important that Clair Obscur, it's on PS5 and Xbox and Steam, but it is on Game Pass. So if you're on the fence about jumping in for the deepest dive and you happen to have Game Pass, you can jump in there and play with us there.
Apparently it's also runs on Steam Deck.
I'm curious to see how it runs on Steam Deck.
I mean, I guess it's Unreal 5, which is really scalable, because like when I was playing, I did not think this game would run on Steam Deck. And I don't know that for sure, but I've seen reports of people saying it runs pretty well.
Wow, that's awesome. BMO writes in and they say, hey, desert island cereal. You can only take one, and that's all you can eat until you leave the island. So this
toothpaste island?
No, there's no toothpaste on the cereal. The ocean's kind of
living this life already.
All your teeth are going to fall out if you can't brush your teeth.
So you want
after eating
a cereal
Captain
you
Crunch.
Can gum.
Well,
yes,
it's interesting.
There are healthy cereals, right?
BMO is kind of taking this angle of like, not your favorite cereal, but the one that's most likely for you to survive. I think he's taking a more.
That's just what you would never get tired of.
Yeah, and what you would never get tired of.
I
like I said, I live this life already. If I'm eating cereal, it's Crispix, basically.
Crispix?
I love Crispix. I don't tell you.
God, your Clair Obscur age number just climbed 10 years.
Hold on, I gotta take some supplements real quick.
Boring name, but great cereal. Smart Start.
What is this crap?
Is unexpectedly delicious, and you could get it from Costco, and so my parents always had it stocked, and so from like, middle through high school, I'd start every morning with a bowl of Smart Start.
What are these things? Some sort of bran flakes?
They're crunchy bran, but they have more flavor than like a Raisin Bran.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, if it's a desert island, the best cereal is like Reese's Puffs, but I think I would go crazy if I had something as sweet as Reese's Puffs every day. So Smart Start,
See, I'm thinking you go Special K with strawberries. Right. And
I was gonna say Special K fruit and yogurt.
Yep, that's good, because you can separate those ingredients out, and if you're on this desert island, you can really savor it. Then separately, you can make like strawberry.
I wasn't thinking that far.
Jam out of the jam, Special K or something.
Soak your freeze-dried strawberries.
Yeah. That's what you go for on a regular morning, Jeffem?
Yeah, because it pretends to be healthy, even though it's clearly not.
It's all just candy. It's fine.
The yogurt that they put into it. Yeah, come on. That's not yogurt. It's just sugar balls.
It's like, if you want to horrify yourself, just look at like the sugariest cereal on the aisle and the one that seems the healthiest, and they will have identical nutritional information.
Just copy and paste for everything. Beto Q92. On a Blockbuster trip, my mom rented an N64 South Park game for me. Well, I enjoyed it. My mom did not enjoy them swearing all the time. those boys, they're only in 4th grade. They swear so much. We went back to the clerk and they explained the rating system to my mom. She became more aware of my gaming, and I one time had to convince my mom the Tony Hawk game was saying Psycho Visions and not Psycho Bitches in the song. I didn't own an M-rated game till I was 17. How aware were your parents of what you played growing up?
I think I've told this story before, but generally they were not aware. But my mom did just randomly watch me play GoldenEye once.
Oh, no.
And she was just like, you're just shooting people. You're just shooting them. That's all you're doing. You're just shooting them. But that was the extent of the conversation. She didn't take the game away or restrict my game at all. She was very offended that I was playing a game where you just walked around and shot people. And then she was like, all right.
Did you quickly turn on the paintball mode just to try and impress? Like, no, it's all paint. It's all paint. They're paintballs.
Cool. That's cool.
I think every modern shooter should still have paintball mode. I still think that helps a lot.
My parents were very aware of game rating systems, and part of this was like I didn't have an older sibling, and I didn't start playing games like on consoles until relatively late. However, they were not aware, or they just couldn't control my like Flash game intake. Yeah. And so this is something that Haley and I discussed on a recent bonus pod, where my parents would be like, no T-rated games for you, and then I would go online and play the most heinous, like violent and racist and like, you know, just like terrible in 7 different directions Flash games. And I was like, oh well, I guess this is allowed.
Yeah, you guys were talking about it was just a bunch of like,
right?
Yeah. Just games that were like George W. Bush 9/11 simulator, just like that type of thing over and over again.
Simulators and stuff.
And then I have shared this story several times, but it was when I turned 13 and had my bar mitzvah. I said, in the eyes of the Torah, I am a man, so I should be able to play Resident Evil 4, an M-rated game, a game for men.
Hell yeah!
Did it work?
It did. They were like, I guess that logic is sound.
Can't argue with that. When I was young enough for them to care, it was like Super Nintendo games. So they
worst.
Probably would have cared if it was like Mortal Kombat, but
yeah,
I never owned it. I never owned it, and the Super Nintendo version was censored to begin with. And so, but by the time I was old enough to buy, you know, shooters or whatever, I was buying them myself, and they didn't care. I also saw RoboCop when I was like 8 years old, so they weren't, you know, like I said, they were 80s parents. They didn't pay that much attention.
That's such an easy catch-all. Well, you know, 80s parents, but well, you know, 50s parents, you know, 40s parents. You can just say that about any decade.
Yeah. And then there's a line where it's like, and then they care too much. They're allowed to go outside.
Lousy helicopter parents. Nate Voris writes in, have you ever had a moment of reflection while playing a game when you thought, is it effed up that I'm having fun doing this? Like, I remember loving the Euphoria system of the Star Wars Force Unleashed, and I'd cruelly dangle stormtroopers and watch them desperately grab for railings or anything to save themselves from being thrown over the edge in the abyss. Am I a psycho? Fun time, says Nate. No, the stormtroopers had it coming. They signed up to fight for the Empire, so it's all good.
I think more about it in terms of like every game that we play where they're the question, the way that you paraphrased it was like killing civilians, you know, like obviously wrong. And it's like, yeah, as opposed to quote unquote bad guys in every other game where the answer is always just murder them with guns. It's a more overarching morality question than just do you do bad things to civilians? But I feel that way, like in terms of the original question. Every now and then when we'll watch like a Microsoft Direct, and it's like 4 games in a row where it's just like, and you torture people and look at all the blood, and isn't this is coming soon? Aren't you excited? Also on Game Pass. It's like, what is wrong with us?
What games are you talking? South of Midnight? What Xbox? Doom?
No,
Doom. I mean, yeah, it looks stuff like.
I mean, Doom.
Those
Diablo. The Diablo trailers are bananas.
That is true. Here, check out my blood skirt. Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I remember like when the ramp up to Last of Us Part 2 and Days Gone was going on, and it was like this weird line where it was like if we were watching like Days Gone footage, like we were like, well, this is disgusting. But if it was Last of Us 2 footage, we were like, this is artistic. And sometimes you would watch the trailer and you wouldn't know until the end if it was Days Gone or Last of Us. So we
wait, are we disgusted or not here?
Oh no, it's art. The trailer. Thank God it's Last of Us, so it's good. It's cool. We're all good with it.
Little girl getting her arms hammered off or whatever. That's fine. That has a message behind it.
I do remember watching that trailer for Last of Us Part 2 and be like, is this Days Gone? And like, oh my God, Naughty Dog would be turning in their grave if they knew that we were confused whether or not that scene was from Days Gone or Last of Us Part 2.
That was the shittiest part of the Naughty Dog Last of Us 2 documentary is they talked about that trailer, and I think people rightfully wrote articles that were like, hey, it's messed up that an entire game's trailer is a woman being brutalized, and then Naughty Dog was like, how dare you?
It was wild for them, man. Yeah, to be like polygon.com, like just singling out like this piece.
It was an embarrassing, like, I don't blame the people for saying that because I'm sure they felt real emotions, but like, if I was making that documentary, I would be like, this is embarrassing for them. And if I'm going to put it in, it's going to be an embarrassing moment.
Tommy Ostrenga writes in and says, if you were given a deal for ageless immortality, how many of you are interested in that? Just baseline.
Ageless meaning like I stay the age I am now?
You stay Clair Obscur 33 for the rest of your life.
That's very ageful. You only get to be that for 1 year.
Am I the only one? This is turning into Would You Rather from Comedy Bang Bang. But like, am I the only one in the world who has this?
Yes.
I don't think I'd want to do it. If there was like a whole culture of people who were living forever and like everyone learned how to deal with infinite life together, and do you want to watch
everyone that you know and love die? Okay. And then all of society fall apart.
Okay, or get better.
While you just are feel powerless, but at least you're still alive to witness it.
Okay, how about this, Hot Shots? All right, I'm changing the deal. I'm Satan, and I'm changing the deal. Now it's you and everybody.
Oh, it's from the Microsoft press conference.
Pre-order now, Game Pass. The prices are increasing. All right, if you and everyone you knew and loved were granted ageless immortality, interested, Hot Shots?
Can you choose to die?
Jesus, there's a second part of this question that's more interesting.
But the answer is no.
I think no. Yeah.
All right.
Give us the second part.
No, sorry, Tommy. You guys don't deserve the second part. We're moving on. No, the question was, if you're given a deal of ageless immortality, but you had to be sent back in time and survive World War I to get it, would you take it?
So a bad deal to start with, combined with I'll have PTSD for the infinite life.
Okay, but imagine you were more obsessed with living forever. There's probably a majority of the audience that is more keen to this idea, or people are like, oh, I want to be beautiful and young forever. Do you think they should take the deal of going back and fighting in World War I?
They're not immortal for World War I.
No, they're not. They have to like wait until 1918 November or whatever, where they signed the peace deals, and then you're granted immortality.
The thing is, people think immortality forever and ever, and to them that means like the next 60 years. And it's
right. The sun's gonna die.
If you can't pull the plug on yourself,
you can. Let's assume you can.
All right, now you're changing the deal again.
So now you're interested, Mr. World War I?
That's a little better.
Yeah, I could figure it out. I would be pretty good at trench warfare.
Well, I tried to look it up to see if there's stats. Imagine combat in World War I, Kyle. What percentage of soldiers died that saw combat in World War I?
I don't know. I don't even want to guess because I feel like I'm either going to guess way too low or way too high.
Now that's podcasting, everybody. Take notes.
40%.
15%. So it's basically a cakewalk. We could strut our way through there and be fine. David Dubbs writes in and says, hey, everybody, am I nuts or have modern pinball machines become way too complicated? I went to my local pinball arcade with a ton of machines that I just couldn't follow. There's now constant sound effects in every hit, an entire TV on the top with important details, an overflow of lights, constant multi-balls that I have no idea how I'm triggering. Am I getting old and I can't keep up with it all? Help me.
Help me.
I think he's right.
It's too hard, too complicated and weird.
It feels like pinball machines are being designed for the pinball wizards among us. and like me, who's like, my main goal is to not make the ball go in between the paddles, because that's the worst thing that can happen. It's like, I don't know how to play like the meta game of like, first you have to hit it up this ramp and then you have to hit the...
I don't know if that's the meta game. I think that's just the game. But
the game is to not let the ball go away.
I mean, in that the point of a game is to press a button on a controller. But I mean, don't you think it is also catering to you that you're trying to keep it so active and kind of PopCap-esque in how many whiz-bang whirl colors they're flashing at you and multi-balls popping out your hoo-ha? That's the goal as well, is to keep newcomers around, right?
What pinball machines are you playing?
Good ones.
Yeah, but I don't know that does keep newcomers around.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you don't understand the rules, I like Pinball FX. We played for many years at Game Informer, and it always was a bear when it was like a new table. You had to go into the tutorial and read like 20 screens explaining how all the multipliers work and the special modes and all of that stuff. And yeah, there's a limit of like, hey, this is now just too much and it's homework. I have to do homework for 20 minutes before I can like play this game good.
Is there a table?
I think it's you just have to pay for it. Like, if it was free, then I would like figuring stuff out. But it's like paying in this economy $1 at a time.
It is a lot.
To like to not understand the rules of something. You know, it's like when I go to my barcade and I play like track and field, it's like, I get that I just have to push the buttons really fast, but I don't know what I'm doing until I've already game overed on the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora pinball machine.
Yeah, I had a real dorky adult moment where I think it was when I was doing that MinnMax Spotlight on EverQuest, where I was in San Diego by myself. And I was like, well, okay, I have a free night. What am I going to do? I'm just going to go to the bar and get some local IPAs and drink beer by myself and play their Ghostbusters pinball table. And I was like, this is like ideal night. Here we go. And it's one of those situations of like, what do you want? What do you want, everybody? It's not as satisfying as you think it's going to be. Because I was there for like 15 minutes. I'm like, what am I doing? This isn't like true happiness by any measure. This is a mediocre time at best. But in my mind, it was sweet. Jeff, have you ever seen the table called Cue Ball Wizard? It's a pinball table that has like pool balls in it. Like, it has like a cue ball that you hit the little ball into. It's at like my hometown brewery at this point, but I'm really obsessed with it just for weird, clunky old pinball tables. Are you looking at this thing?
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's just fun to see the little ball collide with the big ball, you know? That's it. Hey,
I have a deafening Schwab life insurance commercial that I can't
blame
past.
Your age. Ben Man writes in and they say, hey, Ben, why do some dinosaurs make it into the collective consciousness and others do not? Great question, Ben Man.
Because some look cool and some don't.
But what defines cool for a dinosaur? It's not like some are wearing sunglasses.
Scary.
Scary is cool.
Big.
They're all that. Well,
like,
most are that.
Is it like not like a normal animal? You know, if there's one that's kind of just the shape of like a cow, am I like, I don't care, I've seen a cow.
And also like, how many Brachiosauruses or quote unquote Brontosaurus alikes do we really need? Seismosaurus, you're big, I get it. Big whoop. I've seen that shape before. Give me something new. Yeah, I was thinking
back in the 80s, they only knew like 4 dinosaurs, and so those were the only ones that you ever heard about.
Yeah, and one of them was like a Chinese dragon. Like, we were very confused back then. I was kind of leaning that same direction too. Of like, I wonder if there's a certain America centrism idea to this. You know, like the dinosaurs that were discovered in America are more likely to be in American museums. Therefore, more people in America were exposed to them. So then, when more and more dinosaur movies started popping up, we're going to have those types of dinosaurs in the movies because of our childhoods, and then those spread around the world, and that's what leads to them being more popular. Like, I was really diving into this of like, yeah, which dinosaurs were discovered in America? And it's like T-Rex, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Brachiosaurus, Dilophosaurus. Like, hey, okay, it makes sense why Michael Crichton was so intrigued by these, you know?
Do you know the thing about dinosaur like illustrations? Have you heard this story before?
Tell me the tale.
Where it was, I'm looking it up. I think it's Charles Knight was the guy where basically dinosaurs, we've known about dinosaurs for a long time, but for a long time they were drawn in these like pretty boring kind of lumpy ways where it was just like, I don't know, it's just a slow lizard creature. And then in, sometime in like the turn of the 20th century, or I thought it was later. But anyway, it's like at some point there's an illustrator who started drawing them in like more action-y poses and like looking cooler.
Yeah.
And like that is very much when our dinosaur fascination started. Like it wasn't actually that we were all obsessed with dinosaurs forever. It was like they seemed boring and then they started being drawn cool. And then we were like, oh my God, look at these things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Once they drew them for that Game Informer cover, that was...
You're the dinosaur.
That was the turning point.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Do you guys remember there's a dinosaur called Utah Raptor?
No.
There is, yeah. They should put it in the next Jurassic World movie. I think that'd be a fun, big threat. Ironically discovered in Mongolia. Juniper Kane, that's not true, but no one reacted anyway, so I need to have a disclosure out there. Juniper Kane writes in, hey gang, last week on the podcast, Ben and Kyle valiantly defended audiences shouting chicken jockey at the Minecraft movie. And it turns out everybody loved that take, Kyle. It was really cool.
I saw some of those comments. We were on the right side of history.
It's the equivalent apparently of going in and ripping up paychecks for most workers here. If you could replicate this theatrical experience with any other film moment or even gaming moment, as in the audience would all shout the quote from the media immediately after it's said and lose their minds, what would it be? What should be the moment that has, or the media that has a chicken jockey moment?
I really think this should be something incredibly somber, and then the audience, gets a chance to liven it up.
Right. So the answer is?
It's like, I don't know, in The Brutalist, when he says, like, I'm not lowering the ceilings, and then everyone's like, I'm not lowering the ceilings, and starts throwing their popcorn around.
Yeah, that's good. Or I guess leaving it ambiguous so it doesn't spoil anything, because there's people playing it on PS5 now, but towards the end of the new Indiana Jones game, when Indiana Jones screams, blank was chosen by God. That line that I love so much. Just, you get a whole theater reacting to that. That's the good stuff, man.
You go to a theater to watch cutscenes.
I guess it's a fantastical world we're dealing with, yeah.
I do think we kind of got close for a while, and then it seems to have receded again. But I do think we should all be doing something during the Nicole Kidman AMC read.
There should be like a dance.
When she says heartbreak feels good in a place like this, we should all like stand up and salute or something.
Yeah, there needs to be some movement to like the Macarena, something to correspond perfectly with that entire speech, I think. God, that is weird.
Or the roller coaster where the popcorn and the Coke is flying at you. I don't think they even use anymore, but everyone's like, whoa.
Yeah, you got to react. Yeah, the point is to have those big social unifying moments. That's the idea of movie theaters, right? Like that's.
Can I say I saw Sinners last night?
Oh yeah,
and it was
I need to see that.
Full IMAX theater on a Tuesday evening.
Whoa.
Just a random, like every seat full, and the audience was reacting, and it was awesome.
Good. Oh, good. Is that movie as good as everyone's claiming?
Yes.
Okay.
Like you come out of it feeling like you've been like shot out of a cannon.
Wow. All right. Awesome. Ashley Malone has a question. Which successful movie franchise has the most bad movies? And Superman. Interesting. So she said you can't include Star Trek because that's the obvious answer.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah, I was going to think like proportionally, but is it just number? Because it's like, how many good Jurassic Park movies are there?
Oof. 2.
1.5.
2.
I mean, it's
I'm in the 2 camp, but what's your second, Ben?
Yeah, it'd be Lost World. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. Because I really do. I'll go to bat for Lost World, but most people don't.
Yeah. Although, if you put a gun to my head and said, is Lost World a good movie? I'd put that muzzle further against my flesh and I'd say yes.
Or Ghostbusters.
The gymnastics scene.
No, that's fun too. Ghostbusters is good. Yeah.
Because it's like Ghostbusters has one. Like literally that's it. And then they keep making movies. They're like, remember how that first one was good?
Yeah.
Don't
I think
remember any of the others.
Is better than people give it credit for. It has a weird reputation, but there's funny bits in that movie.
Yes, there are some funny bits in that movie, but also the defenders are a bit out of line for defending that movie. It's not that good. We can defend better things, everybody. First
Bobby Mack pointed out Resident Evil. Resident Evil has 7 movies.
That is a great contender. And there's one, I like that first one. But
even then that's
sub Lost World level. If I'm being honest,
campy. campy fun.
Yeah, Terminator I was tempted by, but then I'm like, there's not really that many, and like
there are like 3 good Terminator movies.
That's the thing. Like I like Dark Fate. I know apparently people lump that in too much with Genesis. Like those are night and day movies.
Dark Fate is good.
Yes, I'm totally with you. And 3 is fine. Yeah, probably. I think Jurassic Park might be. Even then, I love them all so much. Don't make me part from my dear fallen kid. I would say Dominion's the only Jurassic Park movie that makes me genuinely angry with it being bad.
Which one is that?
The last one.
Oh, okay, right.
Locusts.
Yeah, the Locust film. So Resident Evil, there we go. Craig Gilmore writes in and says, not really a question, just wanted to say that in reference to Man of the Hour Alex Garland recently, Jacob mentioned on a recent podcast that he wrote DMC Devil May Cry. I just wanted to ask if Jacob saw that recent GQ filmography interview with Garland. Did you see this, Jacob?
No.
Where they run through all of his films, but it's literally the opening of this GQ interview. They're like, oh, we also wanted to ask you about the video games we worked on, like DMC Devil May Cry. And Alex Garland quote said, yeah, nah, I did all on that. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So, never mind.
Enslaved. They talk about Enslaved?
They didn't even have the audacity to bring it up. No. Nathan Ryers says, where is my sweet, sweet Pew Pew Bang merch? When do the pre-orders go up? Well, due to tariffs, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to deliver Pew Pew Bang merch in a timely fashion. No, yes, obviously that is of paramount importance. Basically, I'm not super happy with any of the merch options for MinnMax right now. And so we're looking at kind of building out a new store with higher quality merch because our merch is fine. You can buy it. I have some shirts and they're pretty worn down at this point. And so we're looking into kind of a merch relaunch in the future. And there are irons in the fire to get a big relaunch of high quality MinnMax merch, even if we get a smaller cut of it, just to have some clothes that'll last more than 8 months through a washing system. And
could you imagine making a podcast good enough that people are demanding merch after 5 episodes?
That's the power of Pew Pew Bang, to make this show look like crap. Nick from Atlanta says, hey, cohorts, it's time for everybody's favorite soda-themed game, Doctor or Doctored. As everyone knows, your job is to correctly guess whether a Dr. Pepper knockoff is real or fake. Contestants win a lifetime supply of my choice of Dr. Pepper knockoff if you only drink it once and then never again. That sounds fair, Nick. Thank you. All right, so is this a real or a fake Dr. Pepper knockoff? Some of these are regional. Mr. Country.
No.
Correct. That's fake. But Fairways in Iowa carried one called Country Doctor. That's a good name for Dr. Pepper ripoff, is Country Doctor. Good. All right, Jeff, Dr. Celeste. Spelled like the game.
Sure.
Is real. Distributed by the Pantry across the South, apparently. Jacob Geller, Dr. Whatever.
Real?
Real. Appears to have been distributed across the South at various stores. Kyle Hilliard, very appropriately. This is your gamer tag, I think, on Xbox. Dr. Nut.
No.
It is real. Bottled in New Orleans from the early 30s to the late 70s.
Early 30s?
Sorry?
It does exist now, so I think I get a partial credit.
That's a fair point. Jeff,
well, none of these exist now, though, right?
Correct. I think some do. Jeff, Skipper.
Skipper?
Mm-hmm.
No, come on.
It's real. An old Safeway drink which changed to Dr. Skipper as it was discontinued. That's very confusing.
As it was discontinued.
I'm confused with exactly what that
We're called Dr. Skipper now.
Don't forget us, yeah. Dr. Skipper forever.
The educational requirements of soda really went through the roof. Now you need a diploma.
Jacob, Mr. Sip.
I think it's Dr. Sip.
Well, it's real. It was formerly called Smart and Final. And it was available in stores in Arizona, California, Florida, what is that? What is that state called? Nevada. I was going to say Nevada. That's not the
Nevada.
In Mexico. Smart and Final is a great name for a soda, by the way. It's as definitive as it gets.
But where did the doctor come into it?
It just tastes like these are all Dr. Pepper wannabes.
Nothing tastes like Dr. Pepper, though.
Except for Diet Dr. Pepper. It tastes just like it.
And Mr. Pibb.
There we go. Thank you, Dick from Atlanta, for your doctor trivia. All right, what do y'all like?
Dr. Thunder, I think, growing up in South Carolina.
That was a big one?
Teeter. Dr. Thunder, I think. Yeah.
That's good. What a unique flavor that Dr. Pepper is. How would you describe it?
Well, they engineered it to not be like a natural flavor, right? There's some weird story behind it. It's like it was meant to not taste like anything.
Some mad doctor made it.
Yeah, pepper, I believe.
Oh my God. What do you like for question of the week?
I kind of like Chicken Jockey theorizing.
Okay, Chicken Jockey.
Yeah.
I like the dinosaurs. I like the immortality, even though everyone played ball with it a little bit too well. Jeff, where are you leaning?
I like the chicken one.
All right, there we go.
Jockey.
Juniper Kane, congratulations. You just won question of the week, which means you get Oxenfree 2, that vinyl, thanks to iMapeIt. Now, of course, it's time for something that's called Get a Load of This. Hey, get a load of this, everybody. There's that magazine that we talked about on the show before. It's currently in the Wall of Heroes rotation as well, because we're very thankful for the creator, Caspian Whistler, sending out a bunch of copies to folks on the MinnMax team. But there's a video game magazine that comes out once a year called A Profound Waste of Time. It's a Kickstarted thing every single year, and he shipped over a bunch. They are so good. No offense to Game Informer, Kyle, your beloved magazine.
That magazine's amazing. The Profound Waste of Time is incredible.
Yeah, it's really great. And so I actually had some time this last weekend to kind of comb through it a little bit. And like, there was an interview with Greenblatt, the designer of Parappa the Rapper, that Kyle Bossman, he did the interview for. Did you read that one?
It was a great interview.
Yeah. Where it's like, Parappa, I love him so much, and I never really looked into the history much. I never really understood. I knew it was some partnership with some designer, but I never understood. It's like, it's just this artist in his 60s now who lives in New York. But the part that blew my mind is I didn't realize that like he owns the full rights to Parappa and Jammer Lammy. It's like a weird fusion thing where like Sony made the games, but he fully owns those characters. And at a certain point, Kyle Bossman asked in an interview, like, what he wants to do in the future. And he's like, I want Sony animated pictures to make a Parappa movie. Like, that's my dream. But again, it'd have to be that weird collaboration of like, well, they don't have the rights, so how likely would they be to do it? But it's just a unique perspective that you don't hear too much about.
That's the main problem with a Parappa movie, is who has the rights.
What a mess. But link below if you want to check out that magazine, because it's quite cool.
If they did that movie, it would just have to fully have the music from the first game, right? Like those would be the musical moments, right? Like they could have some original songs, but if you're not kick punching All in the Mind, like
it'd be a nice mix.
Here,
it'd be a nice. I don't know what the compare. They'd have to add. It'd be a little bit like the Lion King remake, where you'd have to add like some new original tracks in there, But predominantly, we're working with like check out this moose in the car.
A lot of fun, memorable songs, and then a bunch of songs you won't remember.
Right.
What should be in that movie.
Right.
Okay, cool.
What does Zazu feel? A lot of that graph thrown in there. Has anybody else got one?
Get a load of this. If I told you that there was a YouTube channel called Service 95, you'd think that's probably some corporate throwaway account. But in fact, it is a YouTube channel where Dua Lipa, the
big fan,
musical superstar, does long, in-depth, and incredibly insightful interviews with random authors who have written books. And they are it's just like two webcams, her talking to the authors. She has clearly read the books and is really into them. And the authors are often like, I have never been asked that question.
Wow.
And it is so... And they have like, the channel has 80,000 subscribers, which is a lot, but not for Dua Lipa. And it's just like, it's like the most beautiful woman in the world asking these authors who have maybe done like 2 other podcasts just really insightful questions about their writing. And it is so funny and weird that exists.
Perfect.
It's like SZA coming on to the last episode of the official Severance podcast and just talking Ben Stiller's ear off about how important Severance is to her and how she's watched the first season like 8 times.
Weird. What is the name of the channel one more time?
It's called Service 95.
Cool. Link below if you want to check that out.
This is what Dua Lipa's doing instead of getting her ass in Fortnite, I guess.
Yo, this.
Oh, Christ, you guys.
Kyle.
Get it together.
Worst. This is a new video from Stand Up Maths, my go-to math YouTube channel.
Oh, Christ.
You may remember them from such previous Get a Load of This is a stack of infinite $5 bills more than a stack of infinite $1 bills. Was a good one. But this one is called Explaining the Trump Tariff Equation.
Good.
And it's just a 20-minute video of this very smart mathematician who saw the equation when they published it and was like, it doesn't make any sense. And he goes into a deep dive about it's a very good explainer for how tariffs work in the first place, and then why these ones are very stupid as well. And once you've watched it, you will feel like you can be confident in saying, hey, now I know enough about tariffs to know that this is a dumb place that we're in right now.
Interesting strategy.
Check it out.
There we go.
Hey, get a load of this. So that game Suicide Squad, remember how I was really bummed out about how they killed the Justice League, even though I thought it was a cool idea, but in practice it kind of came off. It
felt like a bummer, sure.
Yeah. So the game's story is complete now via like DLC and motion graphic cutscenes and stuff like that. And you can go watch like the final true cutscene of Suicide Squad. It's a motion graphic. It's not like, animated characters or cutscenes. But they were all clones. So it's cool.
Cool.
Bunch of clones.
What?
It felt like that. That didn't feel like the real Batman. Hey, get a load of this from the community in the Discord. Tokyo Game Life shared this. It's just a cool idea, I guess, if you're into marketing. No, I'd take back the I guess. It is fun. Nintendo uploaded the highest quality version available of that Paul Rudd Super Nintendo ad from 1991. I love that it's on the official Nintendo channel. It's for a company that it feels like is just getting tighter and tighter and tighter like Nintendo. It does feel like a flash of like, oh, look, they're having fun. They're doing this thing. And the answer is, why not do it? Why not upload this old Paul Rudd ad you had for the Super Nintendo? And then obviously in conjunction with, they made the new one where he came on to talk about Switch 2. And then IGN had a very hard-hitting interview where he talked about how much he liked the Switch 2. And those questions were scorchers. So if you can handle that, you can go check it out. All right, that is it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, listening, sharing. As we teased at the start of the episode, again, Jacob Geller and I are going to the Southern Hemisphere. That's right, Brazil. That's right, São Paulo. Next week for Gamescom. That's happening down there. We'll be creating a travelogue showing off that entire trip for you. But we're hosting a community meetup at a bar/restaurant called La Sampah. And we're going to be there Thursday, May 1st from 4 to about 7 p.m. So check out the Patreon page. There's a public post on Patreon where you can find details on that if you want to come out and join us. You don't need to be a Patreon supporter to jump in. Please bring a friend. You don't need to be going to Gamescom. You don't have to have a ticket to Gamescom to get in there either. So we'll just be hanging out there by the bar. Come swing by. I'm very curious to see just what a meetup is going to be like in Brazil. So let us come out and meet you, please. Let's see. Bonus pod this week. Our Patreon exclusive bonus podcast. If you support us at the $5 tier on Patreon, you get access to that bonus podcast feed. It's very easy. You jump in on Patreon, you get that RSS link, you put that in your favorite podcast app, and then bada bing, bada boom, all of those bonuses pop up right there, including Bonus Pod, the show that Haley hosts every single Monday. And this week was a truly great episode where it was all about Easter eggs and games in honor of Easter. And it was her and Jacob Geller, this very same Jacob Geller as the one on this episode, having a very in-depth, fun conversation about the best Easter eggs of all time, but then also trying to, with Haley's legal mind, trying to classify the different strata and subsystems of Easter eggs and games. Jacob, it was a truly fantastic episode. So thank you for jumping on for that.
Yeah, it was great. And I loved that I was just like, here are my favorite Easter eggs. And Haley emerged from like a beautiful mind style wall and was like, I think I figured it out.
So yeah, if you're ever craving more MinnMax content, unlock that bonus podcast feed. You more than double the amount of MinnMax content every single week, including the deepest dive. Join it for Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Or if you just enjoy people giving the game like this, the discussion it deserves, you can support it directly over there on Patreon, but you can also submit questions and unlock the podcast version, all that fun stuff. We don't plug it too often, but check the description for this podcast. There is a link to our stream archives channel, which is just youtube.com/@MinnMaxStreamArchives, where all of our solo streams go. So if you want to see a lot of Jeffem playing a bunch of games in particular, check out that whole separate YouTube channel. There's a bunch of good stuff on there. But yeah, Jeffem's going to be playing Oblivion on there, streaming it on Twitch. You can give us a follow there or check out that Stream Archives channel on YouTube. New Show Plus this week was a fun one. It was a charge shot, which meant it was going to be a one-off, bigger episode. And we teased what it was going to be. And the answer was something that I've wanted to do for so long. I remember on a podcast years and years ago with Surreal joking about how funny would it be if we had a New Show Plus or some sort of show where we just like flew to LA just to eat donuts and then flew back. And so this is the time we finally fulfilled that with Leo Vader flying to Ohio to meet up with Charles Hart to have some Skyline chili, the fabled Ohio dish of just a bunch of spaghetti covered with chili and cheese that every Ohioan is gaga for. They're raised on it. It's like their mama's milk over there. And so the New Show Plus is just Leo flying over there and having a wonderful, huge meal of Skyline chili. So you can check that out on MinnMax's YouTube channel, or there's an extended version if you're at the $10 tier as well. Also, Doc Lightning, everybody. It's going to be coming up in May, throughout the month of May. If you have ever wanted to create a short documentary, this is your opportunity, folks. We are accepting everybody. If you have a phone, you can create a short documentary. The way Doc Lightning works is it's a community film festival for short documentaries. They have to be under 3 minutes. We have a post going up on Patreon this Friday that should be public for everybody so you can learn how it all works. But if you've ever been curious, you've ever wanted just to interview somebody to make a short documentary, we share a bunch of links for free software for editing, and you can use your phone. This thing can be quick, sloppy. You don't need to be a professional documentarian. You don't need to know a darn thing. Just have the attitude of willing to be a little bit creative in the month of May. And then at the end of the month, we're going to round them up and have a big film festival celebration of everybody's work. And everybody that submits a short documentary, we're going to send out a Steam code to them as well. So stay tuned for that. Let's see, if you really want to go behind the scenes, which I guess it's that part of the show, we have another rapid fire interview that we're recording this Thursday, hopefully, unless something falls through. And it should be up, I'd say, in early-ish May. But it's kind of a funky different one where it's not about one game in particular. It's kind of the entire career of a legendary developer. What's the best way to phrase this developer while still teasing it? Legendary?
I think Legendary is okay.
Truly,
he's been doing it for a long time.
You know his name.
You know his name. Yeah. Pound for pound, one of the greatest game directors of all time, if you look at the gameography. So that should be a fun interview coming up in May for everybody. So thanks for supporting that. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy next week's episode with the guest host. You all be nice to them, you hear? And I'll be back the week after that for a new episode of the MinnMax Show. Thanks so much, everybody. Be good, have fun. Let's go.